In today's video, we're going to take a look at how simple it is to add a custom domain to an existing Windows app service. This includes web apps, function apps, and in this example, we're going to see how to add it to Logic apps. What this does for you is allows you to take the given name that looks like this and make it something simple, simply yourname.net. Or in our specific example, we're going to use a domain that I have just for testing purposes called yclouds.com. So what do you need in order to set this up on your own? Well, first off, you need a domain name, and then you need access to the DNS records for that domain name. And I'm going to walk you through how to set all this up step by step. Let's dive in. I've now logged into my Azure Portal, and I have a temp Logic app that I've already set up. Now, in an earlier example, I exposed this as an MCP server. So in this case, we're going to take this long default domain name here and make it much simpler to use when we expose this as an MCP server. Now, to get started, I simply log into my app service. In this case, it's a Logic app. And then I scroll down here on the left side under Settings, and I click on Custom Domains. Here's where it exposes my existing IP address and my custom domain verification information. To add my custom domain, I simply click Add Custom Domain. I'm going to select Other Domain Service because I'm bringing my own name. For SSL certificate, I'm going to use one that's created by the app service itself. So I'm going to set that setting as the default. And then I'm going to use SNI SSL. And here I'm going to set my domain name. I'm just going to set it to the root of the domain. And I'll show you how to set it to something like mcp.yclouds.com in just a moment. So for right now, yclouds.com is what I'm going to set here for domain. And here it gives me some domain verification information. I need to create an A record and a text record, and then I'm going to click validate. So I'm going to copy these items to my notepad, and then I'm going to jump over to my DNS provider. I've now logged into my DNS provider. In this case, I'm using Cloudflare. They offer a completely free tier, so if you register a domain name, you can register it through them or register it somewhere else and point to their name servers. You can set up everything we're doing here completely and totally free after you have your domain name. So I've simply created my account, logged into my yclouds provider here in Cloudflare, and I'm going to go under DNS, under records. And you can see here it's completely empty. I have no DNS records whatsoever. I'm going to say add record, and we have to add two records. We have to add the A record, and it's going to be at the root. So I'm going to use the @ down here, there's this proxy checkbox. I want to uncheck that. There's bells and whistles that Cloudflare offers on top of their DNS. A lot of times we'd want to take advantage of that. In this case, I just want to use pure DNS. So just set that up like that and say save. And now I need to add that text record, which is the other validation record we need to add. Set that up here. And let's jump back to see what else we need to set for this record. We need to set the ASUID. So ASUID, and then set the value here. And going to say save. And just like that, we've set up everything we need here in order to configure our custom domain in our DNS record. I'm going to jump back to my Azure Portal. So in my experience, in most cases, this updates almost instantly. So I'm going to say validate now, see if that already has been updated. And give it just a moment to validate this. And just like that, you can see that it has validated that these are both set up. I'm going to simply click add. And it'll give it just a moment to create the custom domain and the SSL bindings for us. Now, once this is set up like this, I need to click on Add Bindings. And this is going to assign an SSL information to that binding information. I'm just going to use all the defaults and say Validate. And again, this will take it just a moment. It already validated. And I'm going to say Add. It did say it might take up to 10 minutes in that little checkbox there. So we're going to let this run, and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, now that's completed. It did take about 5 minutes for that to complete. Now let's go ahead and test this out. I'm going to jump into VS Code. Now in VS Code, I do have that domain set up as a MCP server, as I mentioned. And I'm just going to replace this great big huge, first I'm going to stop it. And then I'm going to replace this great big huge URL that we don't want to use anymore with the new one, yclouds.com. So now that I updated that, let's go ahead and start the MCP server and see if it is working correctly. And sure enough, it is running, so we can confirm that it is actually accessing yclouds.com and able to access that MCP server. So now let's quickly take a look at if we wanted to make it a little bit more fancy. We wanted to add a subdomain. So we want to route mcp.yclouds.com to here. Let's see how we would do that. I'm going to jump back into the Azure Portal. Now I'm going to add a new custom domain. Now it does support more than one custom domain, so I can keep this custom domain and I'm just going to add another one. Just like we did before, I'm going to add all other domain services, keep everything else right. In this case, I'm going to say mcp.yclouds.com. And in this case, we need to add a CNAME and a text record. So I'm going to copy this CNAME information here. And let's jump back to our DNS provider here. I'm going to add a record. A CNAME is how you would map to a subdomain. I'm going to say MCP. That information here, unproxy it, say save, and then let's go ahead and add our text record again for our validation. And let's double check the settings. And it's asuid.mcp. And then here is the key again we're going to use. So asuid.mcp. And go ahead and paste in that validation record and hit save. And that should be all we have to do to set up here on our DNS records. Jump back over here again. And again, as I've mentioned in the past, this is pretty quick, should update almost instantly. Again, it's going to vary based on your DNS provider. So it's already validated, say add. And like we saw before, we're going to have to add our bindings again once this is successfully added. We're going to add bindings. Going to use the exact same thing before. There's no certificate, so it's going to create a new one. Going to say validate and add. And just like we saw before, this generally takes 3 to 5 minutes or so. So I'm going to jump back in just a moment. Okay, now that's completed. Just like we saw before, it now says secured. And let's jump over to VS Code and just check our work. Okay, here in VS Code, this time I'm going to come over here and say mcp dot and start up this MCP server. And sure enough, again, it is running. So sure enough, this is working. My mcp.yclouds.com is pointing to that app domain, just like we would expect. So this was just a quick example to show you how to set up a custom domain inside your Windows app services. This will work for web functions, or in this case, we did logic apps. And we used Cloudflare as our DNS provider, but any DNS provider would be able to be set up doing this exact same method. So you can see how simple it was to do. So hopefully you can set up your own custom domains on your Windows app services. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and see you on the next video. Thank you.